So welcome to our live question and answer today. Everybody who's on and who's watching, or if you're listening back to this, we've gone slightly earlier today because I'm actually celebrating my little niece's first birthday this afternoon. So a bit of cake for me, which is lovely. So I'm Helle Aanesen, founder of Move Charity and co-founder of our 5K Your Way initiative. I am your host this evening with my co-host, Lucy Gossage. So I'll let you gossip. That was the name, pronounce the name wrong again. Lucy, if you could just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lucy Gossage. I'm an oncologist. I'm co-founder of 5K Your Way.
Brill. So today I'm going to actually let Lucy give Lucy the opportunity to do the introduction of our very, very, very special guest that we have on this afternoon. So Lucy, I'm going to hand over to you to get us started.
So yes, I'd love to welcome Helle Aanesen. How do we say your surname? Is that right?
Aanesen.
Now you're testing us.
Now you're testing us. Helle is the founder of Aktiv Against Cancer, which is an incredible Norwegian charity, I think loosely translated as Aktiv Against Cancer. And we're going to learn a lot about how the charity came out and some of the incredible work that she's doing over there. Norway is really so far ahead of the UK in terms of including exercise as part of cancer's treatment. But Helle and I didn't meet through exercise oncology. We met, so Norseman, for those of you who aren't triathletes, is probably one of the hardest, perhaps one of the most famous extreme triathlons in the world. And I raced it last year. So you jump off a boat at 3 in the morning or something, you swim 4K back, the bike rides 180K through the mountains. It's absolutely stunning. And then you run about 15 miles on the flats. Then you run about 13K up this mountain on the road. And then you have a 5K hike to the finish, which is on the top of the mountain. It's about 1,800 meters.
Sounds really easy, that.
So I was racing it, and you have to have a support person for the last 5K. And one of the reasons I actually ended up doing it was because the organizer of the triathlon had told me about this charity, Aktiv Against Cancer, and that there might be an opportunity to kind of get to know them a little bit. And Helle agreed to be my support person. So we hadn't met until 10K to go on the run. And Helle's there waiting at the aid station. She's like, do you want some Coke? Do you want some water? And
I was looking like Helle.
My first words were, I'm running 200 steps and I'm walking 10. So off we went. And then Helle actually, you couldn't keep up for that bit, could you? So sensibly, you ended up hitching a lift to the bottom, to the top of the last 5K. And then we scrambled up the mountain together. And we're actually, I'm going to show you this. We're actually cover stars this month on the front cover of True Trace Triathlon, me and Helle.
That's amazing. And it's crazy, isn't it, coincidence that we got you on for this question and answer, and then that goes in the magazine. It's like it was planned.
So most relationships that start with the words, I'm running 200 steps and I'm walking 20, we're not off to a very good start. But yeah, it was such a privilege to meet Helle. And actually after the race, I went into Oslo. You took me to the Pink concert, didn't you? And I learned a little bit more about Aktiv Against Cancer. And I guess now is probably quite a good opportunity also to mention Zalaris, who have supported 5K Your Way since Norseman, and they're I mean, incredibly, they've got some spots for Norseman that they've auctioned off for participants next year, raising money for 5K Your Way and for Aktiv Against Cancer. So it's incredible that we're in the same league as Aktiv Against Cancer. But anyway, that's how Helle and I met. So welcome, Helle.
Well, thank you, Lucy.
or should I call you Mum?
Yeah, you should call me Mom, huh? But that was an incredible first meet. I thought I could easily do the last 10K with you. After having swum 4K, biked 180K, run your first 32Ks, and I thought, easily I could do the last 10K with you, but you sat out there and paced like nobody else in that triathlon, and I was exhausted, after 2K. And, but I was lucky, because I didn't want to ruin your race, and this car came saving my life, so I could hitchhike with the car for the next 3K in order to catch up with you again, and kind of follow you the last 5K to the top, which was I would say exhausting. I tried, Gemma, to say to Lucy, hey Lucy, I think it's it's wise to walk up this mountain, because it's really easy to twist your ankle if you run up there. I run if I can.
It doesn't sound like Lucy at all. I'm surprised you were friends by the end.
And then we climbed further, and the spectators along the route, they kept saying, hey, look at this, the athlete is much more fit than the support. And I go, yeah, well, try yourself. And then one volunteer said, hey, you have to be no more than 60 seconds behind the athlete when you cross the finish line. And I go, yeah, but why not cheer us on, instead? So I was totally exhausted, but I managed, to follow, and I didn't get more than 60 seconds behind you in at the finish line.
That's amazing.
You were amazing, Helle.
I think, Helle, you deserve a round of applause for putting up with Lucy for that last 5K.
For putting up with me, I think that's the right phrase.
But the fun part was in the social media. I think the days after, Lucy was in all the pictures, and in those pictures where I was, struggling behind her, the text came, and this is Lucy Gossage, accompanied by her mom to the top of the mountain.
That's amazing. You should have just ran with that story.
Yeah. So that's why we're mom and daughter right now. So
wow.
Yeah, that's nice.
And so I think my story of meeting you over Zoom, Helle, is very boring. I think we need to do something once all of this passes, where we actually meet on a mountain, so I can have a nice story to tell as well. But what we wanted to do, so it's an amazing introduction. I think it's one of the best we've ever had on our question and answers in terms of how you meet somebody, and it's definitely the right way to meet somebody as well. But Helle, what we wanted to do is find out more about your journey and your life story, and how you came about to setting up the charity, and how also your, this is quite a long-winded question, but how your relationship with Grethe, and I always think her surname, I always get it wrong, or there's different ways to pronounce it. So can you do the honors and pronounce it for me?
Grethe Weitz?
But yeah, Grethe Weitz.
Yeah.
It's always the accent. I can't, accent I can't pronounce very well. But Grethe is obviously 9 times New York Marathon winner, and unfortunately passed away with cancer, but was a big part of your journey, and your journey in making the charity and founding it and where it is now. So we'd love to just take us back. So explain how it started, how it happened, how you two met, and kind of where we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. So this was all back in 2007, beginning of 2007. And I was thinking about, Lucy won't believe this, but I was thinking about running the New York City Marathon.
Helle is a very good runner, we should add.
And then, the only thing I knew about the New York City Marathon is that it was hard to get a spot, an entry. So, but then a friend of mine recommended me to run for Fred's team. And I had never heard of Fred's team, but when I Googled Fred's team, I learned a lot about charities, I learned a lot about fundraising, and I learned a lot about how good Americans are with raising a lot of money for good causes. And this was pretty new to me. I knew about that was a big thing in the US, but in Norway we don't we don't have any tradition of doing raising funds. So I thought that was a good idea, and I thought maybe the time is right now in Norway to do something like that and introduce this to the Norwegian market, because we also need to raise funds for good causes. And that's how the idea came about, actually totally by coincidence. But when I was thinking about New York City Marathon as a Norwegian, it was, it's, to us, it's equivalent to Grete Waitz. She was one of our, huge, largest sport icons, legends, call it whatever you want. But she's huge in Norway.
And she's worldwide as well, isn't she? Like,
yeah,
she's so across the globe. She's just so well known for what she achieved.
Exactly, and especially in the US.
Yeah.
So, and I just read in the papers back then that she was diagnosed with cancer. So, in my head, it was everything came in every piece came in place. It should be, sporting events, having Grete as our profile and ambassador, and of course, working to raise funds for the cancer cause. So that was my idea, and I didn't really know how to go about it, but yeah.
Helle, what were you doing before? So the London Marathon, the New York Marathon was kind of your point of fundraising, bringing everything together. But what were you doing in your career before that? Were you involved in cancer pre-2007, or were you in a completely different career space?
No, so at this point I was sitting in my office downtown Oslo as a sales and marketing manager for Oslo Spectrum, which is one of our largest concert venues in Norway.
Wow. So yeah, complete turn then. That's incredible.
Yeah, so totally different, but my heart has always been in sports, so I've been working quite a bit within the sports. My first job was actually with the Winter Olympic Games in Lillehammer in 1994, and I've been working within some golf company, and also within the Norwegian Ski Association. So I've had a couple of jobs within the sports area, but at that time I was at a concert venue.
Wow. So where did the inspiration come in terms of cancer, sport and charity? How did that all start?
So that was actually, just a coincidence, and the story I just told you. And I think, when you turn 40, I think at least that's what happened with me. I started to think about, my next job should be a lot more meaningful, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So when I got this idea, and I've always told myself also that if I come up with a good idea that I think is worthy to try out, I should try it out. And I think, I thought of this idea, and I think, yes, I believe in this idea. And I thought a lot about it. And at this point, a couple of days after I started thinking about this, I said to myself, you either have to stop thinking about it, or you have to do something about it. And to do something about it was obviously in this situation to call Grete. And well, I got her phone number, and I didn't know her. So it was kind of like one of these phone calls that you think are, scary to make. So you kind of take the phone up and you put it down again, and you prepare yourself a little bit. So the fun thing is that Grete, she didn't have her own phone. So when I called, it was her husband who answered the phone. And he's a very nice man and not very scary at all. So that was a very pleasant phone conversation. And I just introduced my initial thoughts to him, and asked him, whether this could be an idea that he could introduce to Grete, and if they would like to meet me and talk more, then I would be more than happy. And he was very positive and said, well, I'm going to talk to Grete about it, and I'll come back to you.
So,
And then
so Greta hadn't, sorry to interrupt, Greta hadn't had any idea about this. The idea was coming from you rather than Greta had had the idea and wanted some help with it.
Yes, yes. So the idea about Aktiv Against Cancer was mine. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But then, of course, I would never have been able to do it by myself, because her name and her personality and her network, of course, and her, you know, her role in, you know, both being the co-founder and being so enthusiastic about our cause was really important, because she had all the trustworthiness, you know, needed to establish a foundation like this. But she was kind of the ambassador and the profile, and you know, I was the admin and back office, and we went to all meetings together, and she was, you know, we were a good team. She told me, you know, Helle, you can make all my appointments, but not after 6 p.m. Because she was the total opposite of myself. She went to bed around 8 o'clock at night and got up 4 o'clock in the morning, whereas I went to bed 2 o'clock in the morning, and well, of course I had to get up early, but so we joked about that we our office was only closed 2 hours 2 out of 24 hours.
It's brilliant.
So,
and I think what people don't sometimes realize is that they think, like, I know you said it's a coincidence kind of what happened and how it all unraveled and how you both met, but actually it's not. It's often where you put yourself, and having, like, a lot of people would have never picked up the phone to Greta to take that first step, and would have they're thinking it's too much of a risk, or people won't like my ideas. And I think sometimes it's encouraging people to actually say, you know, you're not just lucky, it's about putting yourself in the right position. And sometimes things happen and sometimes don't, but if you keep putting yourself in those positions, if you keep taking those steps and what other people might perceive as risks, you will get to where you want and what you want to achieve eventually. And I think that's what I see kind of the inspiration from you guys. You didn't just wait for it to happen, you made it happen. And you know, it's the scary thing. Like, I know from my personal perspective, like, I set up Move Charity with a personal why, like a big why that's carried me through the work we do today, but it's not easy at all. Like, it's very, very difficult, and the background work that goes in behind it is not just what you see from the outside, is it? It's all of that structure, foundations, and it takes a really strong team to make it work.
Yeah, I think you're quite right, and I think maybe the most important thing is not to think too much.
I like that.
No, because if you think too much, you will start thinking about all it takes, all the work that's ahead of you, and you can easily get scared, you know. So I think it's been actually a good thing that it's the enthusiasm and the joy of achieving small goals at a time that's driven us, and now that we are 13, we've been operating. I've been operating Aktiv Against Cancer since for 13 years almost now, and you know, I had no idea.
What was your mission statement when you went to Greta? What did you say to her? Like, what was your sales point?
That I don't remember, but you know, I think it was as easy as, you know, I used the New York City Marathon as the main event to fundraise on, and of course use also the other events that we have in Norway, like Oslo Marathon, and also the cross-country skiing events that are huge in Norway, and introduce fundraising aspect to those events as well. Was the kind of sales pitch to the fundraising model, And then, of course, because it all had to do with physical activity, but we also learned quite a lot of other things along the way, but obviously also to introduce physical activity as part of cancer treatment has been one of our focus areas from the very start. And luckily Greta had of course, being who she was and being treated at the Oslo University Hospital, she had also been involved in establishing the first fitness center at the cancer clinic in Oslo. So which was the start of the work that we're still doing. But we were also introduced to other challenges that they face within the hospitals back then. For example, that we went to her doctor and we asked him, you know, what's on top of your wish list if we have some funding to support you with. And he goes, well, on top of my wish list is a PET scan. So we didn't know, we were sitting like, huh, PET scan? What is that? We didn't know about them. And he told us about what is a PET scan. And he also told us that Norway at that time had 2 PET scans in the whole country, whereas Denmark was about to get their 30th.
Wow.
And we were the last country in Europe to get a PET scan after Albania, and we, you know, we thought it was, if a PET scan is necessary to do modern cancer treatment, you know, then we thought it was really sad and not to understand, you know, that Norway didn't have a PET scan. So we also started, you know, raising funds for technical equipment like a PET scan, and that is actually the last thing Greta got to experience, you know, while she was alive, to open the PET scan center at the Oslo University Hospital, because we actually managed to raise those funds to buy a PET scan to the hospital.
So what
Sorry. Did Greta, when you met Greta, had her cancer spread? Had it become incurable at that point?
No, it was not curable, but she was diagnosed in 2005 and she died in 2011. So she lived with it, and you know, she had a pretty you know, decent life, even though she had chemotherapy every 3rd week, almost during the whole period, which is extreme, you know. And she was told by her doctor, the first doctor, to lay down on the couch and, you know, and just rest. She was not very happy doing that, and after a while, she was told, you know, to get up and start exercising, and she was really happy about that, and she felt, you know, her whole life coming back to her. And for her, you know, it was a big achievement just be able to walk 100 meters on a treadmill. So I think that's a pretty strong story, knowing that, knowing her achievements as an athlete, and also the fact that she was, you know, she kept fit also after she quit as a top athlete. So she'd been undergoing, you know, surgery and tough cancer treatment, and she felt that she got her life back when she started working out again, which also led us to have a trustworthy story when we go out and speak about the importance of physical activity.
Because what I find fascinating, Helle, is you spoke about the PET scan and that there were only 2 in the whole of Norway, and that was so behind the rest of Europe. But yet we're sat here looking at the work that you do with your charity in cancer and exercise, and look how far you are ahead of the rest of Europe in terms of having centres that people can go to for their exercise programs. And so in the UK, we're still battling with healthcare professionals around the importance of physical activity, but So when I was diagnosed 8 years ago, there was very little information and evidence around it. But you guys, like, where did your motivations kind of come from in terms of this cancer and exercise space when, like, in 2007, there wasn't probably too much information or evidence or studies around cancer and exercise. So how did you get to where you are now with the centres, and so quickly, I guess, in a space that's still quite challenging?
Yeah, and it has been well, yeah, it's challenging because you still find people who doesn't, who thinks it's, no one argues that physical activity is not good for you, but it's a lot of people have the opinion that it's nice to have, but it's not important enough to focus or to prioritize. So I think that's where we have done quite a good job. And also that we've been lucky to connect with people at the different hospitals who have seen the importance of physical activity. And those are the hospitals that we have connected with. And the concept that we have is that we reach out to a hospital and we ask them if they want a collaboration with us in order to establish a fitness center at the hospital. So the hospital has to find a location in the hospital where we can make this fitness center. And when we have the location, then we refurbish everything, we paint, we rebuild, we do everything to make it ideal as a fitness center, and also with some space for a social zone so that they can sit down, have a coffee, tea, chat before and after workout. And where there's a workspace also for the ones operating the fitness centers, so that they are always under surveillance, they're never alone. So I think it's the critical point here is to meet the right people at the hospitals.
Yeah.
And we've met some enthusiastic people on our way, and we have been able to establish fitness centers in 16 different hospitals.
Yeah.
It's
amazing. And also, so they're not necessarily, you're not going in and looking for a space to actually do a full build. You're actually sometimes just taking what's already there and recreating and redoing it. Is that right?
Yeah. That's what we've done most places, and so it might not look very ideal in the first place, but then we have good architects who help us out seeing the they're good at seeing the possibilities.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And how many, just for people obviously watching, how many of those centres have you built, and how do you have, where have you come to now?
Yeah, so we have built 16 centers now, and we are aiming at, I would say that we have at least 8 more centers to go in order to say that we have covered most of the cancer hospitals in Norway. And I also, we have a dream, because 2 of the smallest fitness centers that we have established are in Oslo, in the 2 largest hospitals. And our dream is to make a huge center for exercise oncology in Oslo, where there is a big space for working out, but also workstations for researchers who can do more research on physical activity and cancer.
That's amazing. It's honestly, it's a step ahead of where anyone with any country and what anyone's doing. And I just wanted to ask you, just so I can see it from the kind of, if I was back in 2012 as somebody who'd just been diagnosed with cancer, what would my journey be from diagnosis and being able to use and going into one of those centres, and how does that work?
Yeah, so then I can give you 2 alternatives, which is, how it is today and how I would love to see it happen.
Yeah, that sounds good. I love that. Still dreaming.
Yeah, definitely dreaming in this area, because how it is today is that the patient comes in and the patient starts treatment and meets his or her doctor, nurse, coordinator. And if they know about the fitness centers, they will tell the patient and ask the patient to visit the fitness centers. So, and in that case, it's okay. And they also write a kind of a prescription to visit and make an appointment at the fitness center. But in the case where the nurse or the doctor or the coordinator is not aware of the fitness center, doesn't care about physical activity, then the patient won't hear about it. Unless they hear it from their neighbors, or see a brochure in the waiting room, or hear from us in some other way. So it's still a little good luck, you know, or a little luck if you hear about the fitness center. Yeah. So my dream, but a lot of people hear about it now. So I can't complain, and this is something we tie up pretty or really try to be strict on when we establish the fitness centers with the hospitals.
Yeah, and I think it's quite not nice to hear the same barriers that are happening, but we have it with 5K Away. You know, we want everybody who's been diagnosed with cancer to have the opportunity to at least hear about the initiative and the groups that they can be part of, and especially other charities that are doing similar things. But like you say, the barriers are pretty similar that we're facing across the two different places, and I think that they are things that are breaking down, but they are still apparent that if your health professional doesn't talk about it, you're not going to hear about it, and that can perhaps be a negative effect on your journey with cancer, because if you don't have that experience. So
did you have a lot of bureaucracy? Because we in the UK, hospitals make it so hard to create initiatives. So Gemma and I are trying, with Move Charity, are trying to launch some group exercise classes over Zoom for young people with cancer. And it's such a simple thing, but there's still a huge number of hoops to jump through. And we tried last year, didn't we, or 2 years ago, to do some face-to-face things in the hospital. And Gemma was coming in and we were using the physiotherapy gym, but there was just such a it won't work attitude in the NHS, rather than it might work, let's find a way to make it work. And I love talking to people like you, because you're such a, I have an idea, let's just try it, let's see where we get to. Did you have similar obstacles in Norway or not?
Yeah, we sure do, and but I think I can see we are breaking the ice and breaking through now in a couple of years, I hope, because but it might also be a little easier in Norway, because we're only 5 million people, and we have a shorter way to our politicians, I think, maybe than you have. And we've been able to invite our politicians to the openings of the fitness centers. We've showed them what we've done. We tell them about the research and so forth. And so I think there are, smaller environment in Norway than you face in the UK. But what we try to, and my new favorite word, Gemma, is, and this is, the situation I hope we will reach, within not too long, is that prehabilitation becomes a standard part of cancer care, because it's all about being the best prepared patient possible. And this is where everything adds up, I think, because it will be putting the patient in center. It will be preparing the patient in the best way. It will enable the patient to take part of his or her treatment from day one. And it will and it the results that we've seen so far are amazing. So we have a couple of projects going in, well, not Aktiv Against Cancer, but at the hospitals in Norway where we collaborate. They have a couple of prehabilitation projects going on, and they see, you know, they're great results when they have patients in for prehabilitation before, for example, surgery.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think this is just, you know, common sense put into a system that works, you know, and that means, you know, and that's like Lucy does when she is on the starting line of a triathlon. Then she has probably worked out and prepared herself. She has probably eaten right before she starts. She has probably not smoking very many cigarettes before she starts. And she has slept well, and she is prepared, you know. She knows the course. She knows where she's swimming, in what direction. She knows where she's biking. She knows where she's running. And she knows where she can get her fueled up along the course. And it's all about that.
That is the best ever heard it explained. That is, and Helle, I had, so when I was going through chemotherapy in hospital, the reason why Move Charity started was the one thing I thought about was when I got my diagnosis. So I sat in the hospital meeting room with my consultant, and I got told everything that I was going to go through. So pre-cancer in terms of looking at levels like your lumbar punctures, your bone marrow biopsies, all of that sort of stuff. I wanted at that point to then, on the other side, be given some positivity around what exercise can I do, prescription, this, that, and the other, around actually how do I keep my quality of life. And I remember sitting there and thinking, I wanted both, and obviously I only got the cancer side. But often people say, oh, when is the right time? And I think the issue is, it doesn't feel like the right time at diagnosis because it's not the norm. It's still not the norm. So once that maybe becomes the norm, maybe that becomes the right time, because everybody's just used to, you get your diagnosis and then you get the support in terms of prehabilitation before you go through your treatment and during your treatment and afterwards. And that becomes the normality for anybody who's been diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, and I think also the reaction from the patients that we've heard is that you get your diagnosis, which is frightening enough, and then you get an appointment to start the treatment kind of like in 20 days, 30 days, and then you spend that time worrying and not
people
knowing.
Want to do something to help themselves, and all the parts of prehab. So prehab, it's not just exercise, it's exactly, I love that analogy. It's exactly, it's what you eat, it's how you think, it's understanding as much as you can about your condition, about the treatments, about what might happen in the next few months.
Yeah, and it actually makes you feel that you have started your treatment already. And you're really, you know, doing something yourself. And I think a lot of patients really want to be part of their own treatment and have the feeling that they are contributing themselves.
Yeah, because it's often talked about that ownership and that control, and that's what I felt running gave me. So when I started running, kind of just by my own guidance during treatment, it was what gave me control and normality. That yes, all the cancer side it was all out of control. Like I felt like I had nothing to say other than going through the motions. But like you say, you then have an input into your health moving into your cancer journey. And actually, are we just robbing people of that opportunity because they're spending 2 weeks or a week or 3 weeks just sat there not knowing what to do and how to live, really, until they start their treatment? And actually, are we robbing them from that opportunity to do something about it?
And sometimes we're even doing, you know, where it's not that we're just not encouraging them, we're actually not dispelling the myth that a lot of people think when they get diagnosed that they need to rest. So we're actively harming them if the standard response is, oh, I've got cancer, I must rest in bed. That's, we know, I mean, that's harmful, isn't it? So it's not even that we're not doing good, we're actually doing harm by not bringing it up.
Exactly. And I think, you know, it has a lot to do with your physical health, of course, but it has a lot to do with the mental health as well, you know, to keep positive, to empower the patient, to keep the hopes up, and we know that physical activity, you know, at at the level that you are on, you know, obviously, and is make, you know, does so good, much good to you, both physically and mentally.
Yeah. And I think it's fascinating. I think, like, I don't know, I can't remember if I've just said this. Remind me if I have said it, because I'm just so engrossed with what you said. But one of the things I loved, and I may have already said this, but is that you call them fitness centres at your hospital. Have I said that? No, okay, that's fine. I just said it in my head, and then I was like, have I said that out loud? Okay. So what I love as well is that you call the centres fitness centres, and they are based at the hospital. And I think one of the challenges we had, so we were going to launch a programme in the hospital in the physio department, but the thing that was in the back of my head the whole time was that this is not the right environment to be set up to bring, we were doing it at young people, to bring young people to do a fitness session in a physio centre that wasn't inspiring. It just wasn't set up right for people to be working on themselves during exercise when they're going through their cancer treatment. Whereas I love the idea of literally going in, refurbing it all, making it into something that doesn't feel like a hospital, even though it's inside the hospital, that you go into that space and you know exactly why you're there. You're inspired to move and do exercise, and you're in that controlled environment. But it's not like that hospital environment where you're just trying to fit in a room anywhere because it's a bit on the side. You're like, no, we're here. We're ready to take action, and we mean business. I really like that. And
it's not dissimilar to for anyone who's listening who knows what a Maggie's centre.
Yeah.
So Maggie's are on the hospital, and they're very, they have their, and I've seen some of your fitness. Well, I've seen one of your fitness centres. They're distinctive. It doesn't, it's on the hospital site, but it doesn't feel like you're walking into a hospital environment. And it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think, exactly what you're saying is really important, because and we've focused a lot on this, that the fitness centers are in, you know, very nice colors, energizing environment. The people working there are, of course, not in white coats. They are in fitness gear, tights and t-shirts, and there are no mirrors on the walls. You can put your, you know, take your wig off, put it on the wall, not being exposed to your cancer. So it's all about bringing the hopes up and bringing the energy up, and focusing on everything else but your cancer. But in your heart, you know that you're doing a good thing to your diagnosis. So that's the whole, and that's what I like about our whole concept, is that we're kind of having a positive approach to a terrible disease.
Yeah. And it's so, I think ever since I first met you, it's so inspiring what you are doing, and also where you've come from and where you are now. And I think me and Lucy could sit here for hours and talk to you.
It's such a short term. It's just incredible.
and I think I love it. It's come from like that idea you had, taking the first step to contact Grete, and her influence of, you know, how she wanted to stay active when she was going through cancer treatment, and how, you know, it wasn't easy going for 9-time New York Marathon winner to then not being able to walk very far, but knowing how that helped her both physically and mentally, and then how passionate you both were by helping other people that are going through similar situations. So I think, I just think we could chat to you for hours, but what I wanted to kind of wrap this up, and if anyone has any questions, please pop them in the comment box. But so what's next for Aktiv Against Cancer? So what's next? Where do you want to go, and what are your ambitions?
Apart from the centre in Nottingham that you're going to build.
That'd be great.
No, so except for our, political aims and, goals, and that we really want physical exercise in as part of cancer treatment, black on white, and in all the political documents in Norway. I think that we've gone through a very strange period of time right now in 2020 with the COVID-19. But I think it's the corona has also brought on a lot of creativity, and so what we have seen from our experience now since the Easter holiday, we launched our fitness centers live. You know, we have live fitness sessions every Monday and Thursday. And I think this is something that we are going to bring into the future. And I think that is one of our next goals, is to make sure that that is going to be a permanent permanent part of the schedule in the fitness centers, because everybody are not able to, or in shape to, you know, drive into the hospital twice or 3 times a week. So the digital advantages or the digital opportunities that we've seen now the last couple of months, they're here to just to explore further, which I think is really interesting, because then it is, for example, much easier for you guys and us to team up and do something together. It will, I think, it will make the world smaller, also in this area, and lots of opportunities moving forward, also in the digital world. But I think, you know, a combination of the physical encounters and the digital ones will be extremely interesting moving forward.
And I love that, because it's like sometimes such a really difficult time, like what we're going through, actually, like Lucy said at the very beginning of when we had started the lockdown, actually it can be seen as an opportunity. And like you say, you know, you can really enhance like the digital side of things and how that works with also the physical, and just see that evolving and developing, and it can grow into something really, really great, which is really good. So I'm just gonna, just because of time, and we can talk to you for hours, Helle. I think we like to try and keep it under an hour. But Tracy actually said thank you for everybody who's been watching, and we really hope you found that as inspiring as we have. So Tracy said it would be amazing if something like this was offered across the country here in the UK. The point about rehabilitation being part of the treatment plan, brilliant. And I think, although, you know, although we don't have this, we have varying degrees of cancer rehabilitation offered by different charities and organisations. It's so good to listen to what could be part of the bigger structure in terms of the cancer care pathway. And I think the more we keep sharing that and what other people are doing, the more we can move closer to that happening in the UK, because we just need to keep shouting and shouting and shouting about it. And that's when we'll keep pushing people, and eventually someone will say, yes, this is going to happen. So, but yeah, no, so that's, yeah, we've had some lovely comments about utterly brilliant, very inspiring. So thank you, Helle, for really sharing your story and telling us the journey about Aktiv Against Cancer as well. We hope you've enjoyed speaking to us as well.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah,
and maybe we should do some kind of relay or something at Norseman next year. Now that Zalaris has got has got the slots fundraising for us, I think we'll
Well, I need to
some capacity.
I need to meet Helle halfway up a mountain for my story to be anywhere near as impressive as you guys. So I'll do the run leg.
I'll follow my daughter.
Brilliant. So Helle, if you just stay on, because we're just going to say bye to everybody on Facebook. So thank you so much for listening, guys. We will be back next week, next Wednesday, so jump on Facebook to see us then. But otherwise, have a fantastic week, and we will see you guys soon. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.